One of the most profoundly powerful things that we can do in our life is to learn. And learning is lifelong. For most people, we learn from adversity. That is to say, we learn from the bad things that happen to us. We learn about goodness and morality and kindness and gentility when we are hurt, when we are excoriated by pain. And all of its opposites as well. We tend to learn most keenly when we are in the grip of a great and deep hurt. Far wiser than learning from pain is to learn from the good things that happen to us. To be able to extrapolate from all of the wonderful gifts that occur to us in life, to learn how to behave better, how to give better, how to walk better, how to live a kinder and more gentle life. And yet even more profoundly wise than that is to learn from peripheral actions. That's to say, not necessarily things that happen to us, that things that happen around us. We glance, we look, we read, we absorb, and we learn the profound lessons of life from what we observe. And this has implications from today's Torah reading, Tetsaveh. Tetsaveh this week starts out with the words, Ata Tetsaveh, you command all of Israel. It's implicit that God is speaking to Moses. Moses, you command all of Israel. But it's only implicit. It's never stated outright. Because Moses' name not only is not mentioned at the outset of the Torah portion, it is not mentioned at all. Throughout the entire Sidra, Moses' name is not mentioned once. From the very inception of Moses' birth at the outset of Exodus until the conclusion of the final book of the Chumash, Deuteronomy, Moses is evident in every single parsha, save one, this week. And so we are called upon to ask, why is that? Why is Moses' name so conspicuously absent from this Torah reading? And I'm going to offer a few possibilities. It's up to you to choose which one of them appertains to your soul, which one gives the most meaning to you and to your life. Here's one. Moses, remember in chapter 32 of the same book in which we're reading, appeals to God to forgive the sins of the Jewish people, having just created a golden calf, having done terrible things. God says, I'm going to wipe them out. And Moses pleads with the Abishter, he pleads with the God of the universe to save the people. And ultimately, what Moses falls back upon is the most powerful statement that any human being could ever make before the Almighty. Forgive them, or mecheni na misifrecha, or erase me from your book. Now, even though God did forgive the people for their crime, Moses' name remained powerfully absent from this Torah portion, because any time a tzaddik speaks, any time a righteous individual opens their mouth, for good or for ill, the words are far-reaching. They don't just simply disappear into the vacuum of time. Because Moses said, erase me from your book if you don't forgive the people, so it too was that Moses' name was not erased from the entire book, at least not the book that Moses was speaking of, but it was erased from the book called Tetsaveh. What we say should have and does have profound implications for the universe. Here's the second thing. Moses' Yortzeit occurs during this month. The Hebrew month of Adar, which we're in right now, is when the anniversary of Moses' death occurs. As anybody would, I think, recognize, Moses is such a powerful, all-encompassing figure, the individual whom the Torah records as knowing God face to face. We don't know where he's buried. The Torah itself says no individual would ever know the place where Moses was interred. Why? Perhaps because if we did know where Moses was buried, we'd flock to that place and ask Moses to intercede on our behalf with God. Perhaps we would put messages beside his sepulcher. Perhaps we would make of him more than a human being. We would make of him a saint. And the Torah explicitly forbids this. The Torah says that no human being should ever be elevated to that level. And as if we are to miss the point, the Torah goes out of its way to say Moses was indeed a flawed character. He killed an Egyptian, and later on, he maligned his own people at the rock that he struck instead of speaking to it. All the smallest flaws of Moses' character are deliberately pointed out as if to say, venerate no human being. And then, of course, what we find throughout the entire Torah reading is that when the people are called upon to do an act of kindness, when they're called upon to deliver of themselves acts of goodness, that is the highest of highs. In last week's Torah portion, what we found was that Moses and God appealed to the people to give so that Truma could be collected, and then with this Truma, they could build a tabernacle, they could build a Mishkan. But in this Torah reading for this week, the funds are dispensed. They are ultimately used for the good that they were originally intended for. What do we learn from this? It's not the man, it's the deed. It's not the man, the individual, but it's the individual of the people, the corpus of Israel, that makes the ultimate difference in the world. Not Moses, but you. Now choose. Choose which one of these three areas that you would choose to care to adopt that speaks most forcefully to your soul and your mind. And then I challenge you to learn from the deeds of another human being, not from the flaws of character that we all possess, not from the good things that happen to us, but something that contains far more wisdom than both of those, learning from another. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, and of course remember, this Saturday night begins the holiday of Purim.